We in shot. This is not what I had planned. I was going to do this same video, but record my lower session from today. No one cares about legs, but it was going to be something a little bit more interesting to look at than just my face. But it's currently snowing. Now the Winter Arc Brigade will tell you that regardless of weather conditions, you should get to the gym same time as you normally would. I would argue crashing my car is probably not the best plan for the pursuit of gains. So I'll probably just wait until the snow melts a bit and go later on, but I want to get this video filmed now. Also as well, really showing my autism here because I've just completely sidetracked from the video title. Legit, one of the best books that I've read this year, Compound Fracture. Had a bit of a mare trying to find it. Turns out a lot of bookstores just don't have it for some reason. So I got this in Hatchard. Booksellers since 1797. Next to Fortnum & Mason. Bougie, I know, but managed to get it. Trans main character. Great book. Brilliant book. I've also this year really gotten into oh crap, Legends and Latte. Did forget the name. Legends and Latte, also a good book. Trying out some different genres this year. Anyway, on to the actual video. So I've got about a month left of my bulk. Last month I filmed a video talking about dysphoria and bulking and ways that you can try and help with that. It's never going to be an easy process, but hopefully the tips in that video helped. Today I'm going to make it a little bit more personal because I'm going to tell you about my experience of bulking over the past 5 months, and I've got about 1 more month left. I'm going to take this bulk to the end of the year, beginning of 2025. We're going to do a little bit of a reset. We're going to clean things down a little bit because it's starting to get a little bit chunky, starting to get a little bit uncomfortable, if I'm being honest. But that's kind of part of the mental side of going from being really shredded to a little bit more rotund. But it's all good. It's all long term for the greater good of gains. So instead of filming my lower session and having that on the screen and then walking you through stuff about my bulk and how I'm the same weight now as, or near enough the same weight now. I think I'm about a kilo off from when I started my prep at the start of the year, but my body is completely different and it is wild. I'm going to talk you through that just as I go about my day. So whilst I'm waiting for the snow to melt, I'm just going to get through all of my work, talk you through my bulk, and then once the snow's melted, I'm going to go and train lower. But unfortunately, you're not going to be able to come with me. Now, you know, as a coach, the best part of my day is check-ins, because this is essentially the job, right? So I'm going to start my Tuesday check-ins. I'm going to talk to you about the first point when it comes to the success of my bulk this year. It has hands down got to be something that most people are not very good at doing. Not because it's really difficult, not because it takes a lot of skill, but because to a lot of people it's pretty boring. And that is doing the same exercises week after week after week after week. If it's not broken, don't fix it. For example, I have done one lateral delt exercise for not just the entirety of my bulk, but the entirety of the year, right? I do 8 sets a week of an incline cuffed cable lateral raise. So what's that? 8 sets a week by the end of the year, times that by 52. So we're looking at about 416 sets of the same exercise. Most people chop and change. If you've got something that works, you don't need to change it. if you're able to progressively overload it each week, line it up properly with the muscles, joints you're trying to train, keep it in. Don't get rid of it. I honestly think if you were to count the number of exercises that I have swapped out from my training plan for this year, I don't think you'd be above like 5. I don't think you'd need more than one hand. Because I know what works, and as long as I'm still progressively overloading it and I'm seeing the progress in terms of building muscle, I'm not gonna swap it out. So for me, that's been one of the keys to the success for, again, not just the bulk, but just my progress for the entirety of the year, is doing the boring stuff, the stuff that people don't want to have to accept you got to do. You don't need a million of different lateral raises or a million different curls. You need the ones that work, and you just need to do them over and over and over and over again. This week when you are tracking, because I think in comparison to what it probably was when you were eating, okay, I'm taking a little bit of a break from check-ins to write something exciting. Something exciting for towards the end of the year. If you want something exciting that I've already written, then you can go down below to the description and you can download the In Shape Trans Guy Guide, 100% free, talking all things fat loss, muscle building. No, it isn't some quote-unquote magical trans training plan. That obviously doesn't exist. But it is my experience of training as a trans guy, and something that I'm pretty sure a lot of you watching this video will be able to relate to. So you can download that down below, and then there'll be something else exciting dropping towards the end of the year. But going on to point number 2, a really, really important thing for me in this current bulk, and something that I am very, very glad to have in my plan at the moment, that's been keeping me feeling healthy whilst stuffing my face with quite a bit of food, is my non-negotiable 60 minutes a week of cardio. Yes, I was once a part of the no cardio on a bulk crew. I would literally just use cardio when I was dieting in order to like add to the calorie deficit. And based on how my fitness levels improved when I was prepping and how it made me feel, for me, keeping the cardio in forever was just something that I didn't even question. I just wasn't going to get rid of it. And the impact that it's had on, you know, just how I feel day to day, yeah, kind of stating the obvious, but sometimes you have to, sometimes the most obvious things are still things that you ignore. And I have realised how much better I feel for keeping that cardio in, and that's been a big part of the success of this bulk so far, and not turning me into a human marshmallow. Now, another really, really important thing for me in this bulk has been taking the newfound knowledge and experience of drastically reducing the amount of processed food in my diet during prep and transferring that over into a bulking setting, which hasn't been the easiest thing. So obviously when I was dieting, being on super low calories, you don't have, you know, a lot of processed crap in there simply because you don't have the space for it. You fill up on a lot of veg, salad, and then basically just protein alongside of that, right? And not only was I finding that my digestion was better, but there was a lot of things that also improved that I would never have imagined. Now, these were things like my mental health. My anxiety levels drastically dropped when I cut out a lot of processed stuff. Pretty sure it was the emulsifiers that were causing that for me. I also used to have a lot of problems with my mouth. I'd get kind of like quite inflamed gums and things, and that massively dropped off. I very rarely get that now. So all those things I've tried to take into my bulk. Now obviously when you increase your calories, that's when you would start having a lot more sugary things just to try and bring up those calories. And it's been a lot harder, but I have been maintaining and taking out a lot of that processed stuff. Even just smaller things like making sure that the bread that I have is like a seeded bloomer, like a freshly baked one, as opposed to some dyed white bread, like crisps. I'm having these lentil chips, which are far better in terms of, still not amazing, but far better in terms of ingredients than just like, you know, your standard Walker's crisp. So I want to make it very clear that I'm throwing this one in, and yeah, okay, ultimately gaining body fat is about eating too many calories. So I'm not saying that just by cutting down on the processed food, I'm not going to gain as much body fat when bulking, but it all creates that bigger picture of ensuring that I am in a healthier place to stay in the bulk for longer, perform better, recover better, and that all adds up. So for me, yes, okay, drastically dropping down on the amount of processed foods I'm eating hasn't directly meant that I've not gained anywhere near as much body fat as when I've previously bulked, but the things that it has helped me with have then contributed to being in this bulk for longer and making it just far more successful. Now, for me, another one of the big reasons that I have just not gained anywhere near as much body fat this bulk has been that the last thing that I have concerned myself with is the scale. Previously, I have focused on the scale first, and I've done photos once every few months, same with taking measurements. This time around, the scale has been the thing that I've been least concerned with. I haven't been pushing for any kind of scale weight. For me, the most important thing has been doing photos every single week, and I redo my measurements every 2-3 months to see how those are also progressing. The scale falls where the scale falls. And I spoke about this in my last video where I was talking about helping with dysphoria and bulking, and therefore, you know, trying not to gain too much body fat on a bulk. Ultimately, if your photos and your measurements are looking good and moving in the right direction, it doesn't matter what the scale says. If the scale's hardly moving and you can't see any difference in the photos and measurements, then yeah, fair enough, all combined, maybe look to increase food. I'm not saying, you know, don't have a scale weight necessarily in mind, but it shouldn't be the number one thing that you're focusing on. If you're pushing the scale and you're not looking at, okay, what are my body fat levels actually looking like in photos, and am I growing in my measurements? If you just ignore those and all you do is focus on the scale, all you're going to do is pile on the pounds of body fat. So for me, it's been photos, measurements, scale weight in that order. And that's been one of the biggest reasons as well that I have kept things a lot more under control this time around. So snow is clearing up. I'm going to go and train lower. And there is one more important piece to the puzzle that, in my opinion, has contributed to this bulk being so successful. And this is by far the most important one. So here it is. Okay, this last one is the riskiest because I'm going to drink my pre-workout and then tell you about it. And the risk is it'll probably take me 10 minutes after drinking this to actually get out of the house, then 15 minutes to get to the gym. That's 25 minutes into drinking pre-workout. That's risky. The last one, the biggest reason as to why I have not become a human marshmallow this prep has been that I have not put myself in a crazy surplus of calories. And I have done that using a method that I've spoken about many times already on this channel, on my other social media platforms. It's a method that I use with a lot of clients who are looking to bulk, build muscle. Maintenance, near enough every day. But you have 1 or 2 meals per week that are untracked. Now the combination of all of that means that your weekly total calories just push you into a calorie surplus. Meaning you're eating enough to gain muscle, but not so much that you just balloon like I used to. I used to put myself in a huge calorie surplus by being in a moderate surplus nearly every day, but still on top of that having those 1 to 2 untracked meals, and it was just completely throwing me way over every single week. So honestly, the number one reason this year, these past 6 months, why I have not ballooned is because I have stayed strong on maintenance calories for most days, 1 to 2 untracked meals each week. And in the past 5 months, I've gained around about 9 kilos. Wait for it. Had I not been coming out of a prep being super lean, 9 kilos in 5 months would be ridiculous. 9 kilos in 5 months would either be me ballooning and putting on a shit ton of body fat, or being the cause of using, a little bit more testosterone than maybe I was being prescribed, right? So neither of those two things are true. It's because those initial 4, even 5 kilos post-prep were just my body getting back to normal, right? Putting on a load of water, putting on some body fat that's going to actually make me healthy post-prep. So if you're watching this, 9 kilos, 5 months is a hell of a lot. If you're natural and you're not post being crazy lean, you're not going to gain that much. But you are still, if you keep that surplus moderate, going to gain a good amount of muscle and not balloon. And that for me has been the key this past 5-6 months. Now, I react really quickly to pre-workout. I can already feel everything itching. So those are the things that I have done over the past 5 months to become a human Dorito, not a human marshmallow. Any questions, drop them down below. The In Shape Trans Guy Guide is in the description. That other surprise will be coming out towards the end of the year. The first people to get that surprise will also be the people that are signed up to get the In Shape Trans Guy Guide. I'll see you all in the next one.